Hello, everybody. Welcome to Premier League predictions. Mikey was back last week from paternity leave, and he was back with a win. Mikey, you took it 6-4 in round 23. We often look for where the win was. This one was completely obvious because we were tied up, other than you called Man City 3, Chelsea 1. Absolutely bob on. Mikey, you are 9-6 up on the weekly, 113, 105. And let me put a question to you that you might want to put to the audience. Are you up for some FA Cup predictions next week?
Yeah, I just had a quick look at the FA Cup fixtures, and there's some really tasty ones in there that include some of our friends in the Championship. So, yeah, if the audience are up for it, I'm definitely up for it.
So we'll do a selection then of FA Cup games. So we're not going to ask you if you're up for it. We're going to ask you which games do you want us to cover. We might even stretch to 12 like a championship prediction show rather than a normal 10 here to accommodate as many as possible. But it's all about the Premier League and round 24 today. Mikey, get your predictions in the comments if you are wanting to play along. Copy and paste from the description. Give yourself 1 point for correct outcome, home, away, or draw. 3 points for correct scoreline. 4 points for that bonus. Mikey was close on Southampton Newcastle last week, which was a bit hairy for me for a few minutes there. You get yourself 4 points if your predictions got 5 or more goals. Mikey, you are up first. I will mention the Chris Hughton derby here because it's Nottingham Forest versus Brighton.
Yeah, and Nottingham Forest, much like yourselves, Ben, much like yourself even, you're singular, aren't you? They'll want to put match week 23 behind them, won't they, after that devastating 5-0 defeat down at Bournemouth. I think most Forest fans will just ride that off as a bad day in the office and just look to move on. And to be fair, Bournemouth were bang on it, weren't they? They played so well, and Forest conceded quite a few late goals pushing forward. The good news is for them is they've only lost 2 in a row once all season. The bad news is that Callum Hudson-Odoi needs a fitness test to be past fit for this one, so he might be missing. Brighton, incredibly disappointing performance against Everton. They didn't really create much of any note at all. Jordan Pickford, when I saw the result, I assumed Jordan Pickford had a storming game. He didn't really have to make many saves of note in that one. Estepinian and Solly March might be missing. The injuries piling up again. So I'm finding it hard to look beyond a solid Forest victory here. I'm going for 2-0.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've got in my head either 1-0 Forest or a 1-1 draw. I do feel Forest will bounce back, and I do feel it will be an outlier. They've been too good this season for it not to. So what I'm going to do, Mikey, I'm going to play tactically here. I'm going to play against you rather than for what I actually think. I'm going to ditch the 1-0. I'm going to go for the draw just to try and get a point up on you and have a different scoreline. So I'm going to go Forest 1, Brighton 1. I'm sure you understand, Forest fans. And it's Bournemouth Liverpool. Now, Mikey, I see an opportunity here that we don't get very often because Liverpool have been so utterly superb that we don't often get to back against them. But I quite like a Bournemouth home win as my prediction here. As you mentioned, they were so on it. And I don't know, maybe we'll look back and that was the peak of Bournemouth's brilliance this season, the 5-0 win over Forest. But can we not drag it out one more week? Wouldn't be like me to drag on a joke for too long, but can we drag out some good form for too long? I'm very rarely going to back against Liverpool this season, so I am going to take the opportunity to do it now. I'm going both teams to score. Bournemouth 2, Liverpool 1. Mikey and the audience can decide whether that's bold enough for a bonus point. I'm sure I won't be granted that. But are you following me on the Bournemouth train, Mikey?
I'm not going to, but I will doff my cap to the Cherries. And they've got injury problems as well, Ben. That's the craziest thing. They've got so many injuries, yet they've gone on this fantastic run, and they just play such good football as well. Bournemouth, they're 11 games unbeaten, but Liverpool are 18 unbeaten, which makes you think maybe they are due a defeat at some point. Arne Slot doesn't rotate very often. He didn't rotate at all really against Ipswich, did he? And they got the job done really professionally in that game. But he won. He's almost certainly going to shuffle the pack against PSV in the Champions League, and then maybe it could be a little bit disjointed at the weekend at Bournemouth. Definitely a tricky fixture, but I'm going to back Liverpool to win this 1-2-1, especially as you've gone for Bournemouth.
Everton and David Moyes versus Leicester. Great win for Leicester at Spurs, much to my annoyance.
Yeah, brilliant wins for both of these sides last week, and it's not looking like such a big game now for Everton after they got that surprise-ish win away at Brighton. A good start for David Moyes, and Iliman and Jai is he's I think he's had quite a good season, but he's now getting that production. He's getting goals and assists. Um, and it will be a completely different atmosphere at Goodison to what it would have been under Sean Dyche. Everton fans seem fairly happy to have David Moyes back, and they've won a couple of games now, so they're looking a bit more positive. But yeah, Leicester, to be fair, a lot of people had written them off, myself included. But Dr. Tottenham visited them on Sunday, or moreover, they visited
Tottenham.
Dr. Tottenham and got that incredible win at Spurs. They do have good attacking players, don't they? They just are a little bit shaky at the back. And I think that might cost them at Everton as well. So I'm going for a narrow 2-1 Everton win.
I think I'm going to take Everton as well, Mikey, to be honest. I do think Leicester just visited Spurs at the right time with Spurs at a pretty low ebb. So would that be 3 wins in a row for Moyes? And he's got that rearranged Merseyside derby coming up as well. So I will take Everton. I quite like your 2-1. So I will go for classic David Moyes 1-0 in that case. Please, sympathetic to Mikey, who you can see is struggling terribly with man flu, but he is still here doing the show. My God, Mikey, Ipswich versus Southampton. I think you and I, if we go emotionally on this, are duty bound to predict a home win here, because if it isn't a home win, well, you know what the overarching narrative about where Ipswich are going to end up next season is going to be. There's been some good battles between Ipswich and Southampton lately, but I wonder whether the new manager, I know it's the same group of players, but it's not Kieran McKenna against Russ Martin anymore, whether that's now gone. They've been very tight and things have tended to go Ipswich's way, maybe fortuitously as well, with that late equaliser in the first game. Call me soppy. I am going to go heart over head here. Yeah, Southampton could get something, but it's so vital for Ipswich. And all Southampton have really got is can we take them with us? You know, can we pull Ipswich down and, you know, see them in the Championship next season? I'm going to play for a bonus point as well. The natives won't like this at Portman Road because it'll be nervy. Let's go 3-2 Ipswich just to get the job done somehow in chaos.
And that would be a repeat of the incredible win at Portman Road in April against this same opposition,
Any
right?
excuse to mention that game. Literally every Ipswich fan, every time they're watching Burnley and they see Jeremy Sarmiento, it's like, oh.
I'm going to really shock you here, Ben. I'm going for Ipswich 3, Southampton 1. Simply must win, as you say. Does McKenna go with Enciso, Philogene, and Hutchinson behind Liam Delap and go all out attack? Or
Good bit
does
by
he?
David Diamond on that on the excellent Blue Monday podcast, which you can check out. We are down the Blue Monday feed at the moment as well.
Yeah, Southampton do carry an aerial threat. They've scored quite a few headers in recent games, Ben. So maybe we do have the extra defender in there, and we stick with the same formation that we've played the last few games. But yeah, Southampton, you mentioned they're trying to pull us down with them. One thing they do need to be careful of is that record low points total that Derby set back in 2007. They only need 6 points to avoid it, but they'll see if they lose this one, they might start to worry about it. But yeah, I've got to back Ipswich to win this one.
Newcastle versus Fulham.
Yeah, and Fulham won the reverse fixture of this one 3-1 earlier this season. But Newcastle really like this fixture at home. And yeah, Fulham haven't won at St James's since 2009, Ben, just before I went to university. You were probably... What were you doing in 2009, Ben?
2009, I would have been on tour in a signed originals band. Imagine that, hey?
Brilliant. And yeah,
Halcyon
Newcastle...
days.
Halcyon days indeed
Where
for
did it all
both of
go
those.
wrong, George?
But yeah, Newcastle back within 3 points of Forest. They lost the 3 points at home to Bournemouth with Forest winning, but then they're got back within it, and they're tied to Chelsea now as well. And I think Newcastle will see that top four spot as definitely a. They've definitely got a decent chance of getting it, but are possibly going to be a little bit distracted by the cup competitions because for most Newcastle fans, they'd rather win a cup this season than finish in the top four. They're still in the FA Cup and they're in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup as well. We backed Fulham to beat Manchester United, but they fell short in that one, and Harry Wilson could be missing for them here. I'm going for a routine home win. I've been caught out a few times by Fulham this season. I may well be again, but I'm going for a Newcastle 3-1 win.
Yeah, I'm going to double you up. I'll say one of my usual cliches on here for your bingo card. If it was at Fulham, I might feel differently, and I would have been right to feel differently earlier in the season. Does feel like a both teams to score, doesn't it? So I am going to wind your prediction in from a 3-1 to a 2-1. Newcastle 2, Fulham 1. Wolves versus Villa. So in the space-time continuum, Villa Celtic has happened, but it hasn't for us yet. But they're at home, and I don't want to open up the Pandora's box of the level of Scottish football, but it should be an okay one for Villa to go into a kind of, do I want to mention a derby as well? A reasonably local derby in that part of the world, let's just say, between Wolves and Villa. Yes, I am aware of Birmingham City as well. Great club who may be the chief rivals of Aston Villa. But Wolves will be furious that they didn't get anything against Arsenal when they had the man advantage and it got evened up. But this is not going to be any different, I don't think. In fact, I'm going to go for the same scoreline. Wolves 0, Villa 1.
Okay, I'm backing Wolves to get a point out of this one. I'm going for 1-1. As you said, they gave a good account of themselves against Arsenal, but the red card for João Gomez cost them, and obviously he's been an important player for them, and he'll be missing. And also, we don't know about Mateus Cunha because he could be
Yeah, he'll
sold
be at his new
before the
club, won't he, at that point? Yeah.
possibly if it happens, and then John Duran, on the other hand, could be sold by Aston Villa over the next couple of days. We don't know. It wouldn't be a huge shock to me if both players are lining up in this game, or Duran possibly from the bench.
Off the bench, yeah.
But yeah, I think Wolves, as you mentioned, it is a bit of a derby. It's a Midlands derby. It's not the derby for either side, but it is a game that will get the fans up for it. And
Exactly.
yeah, I'm backing Wolves to get the point that they might feel they should have got against Arsenal.
Brentford Spurs. Brentford caught us out at Palace last week, didn't they?
Yeah, Brentford caught us out at Palace, and Tottenham caught us out as well, didn't they? So these
So
are two.
basically, we're just crap. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not us. It's that Brentford are really good and Tottenham are really bad. That's
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's not us, Ben.
Amen.
Um, but yeah, as I mentioned last week, I think it is the cups that are keeping Ange Postecoglou in the job because yeah, every time you think, oh, it can't get any worse for Spurs, it does. And they've been so quiet on the transfer front. And I bumped into a mutual friend of ours, Ben, at IMG yesterday, Joe Rutherford, and he said that Spurs are
A
joining
big
Ipswich in a
Spurs fan. Yeah,
relegation
yeah.
battle, which raised my eyebrows. I was like, I don't think Spurs are in a relegation battle, but I guess on paper, they kind of are at the moment. But yeah, no such worries for the Bees. Really good away win for them. And as we all know, they're more dangerous at home. They've managed to keep Brian Burmo and Brian Visser fit for large parts of this season. They make a huge difference. I'm going for a bonus point win here for Brentford. I'm going for 3-2.
I think I've got to back Brentford as well, although there is part of me that thinks, I know Brentford are brilliant at home, that it ends like 3-0 Tottenham. And that's the bounce back, and they actually start behaving like their squad, frankly, should do. I'm just covering that eventuality in case it does happen, but I'm going to back Brentford. We normally go both teams to score with Brentford at home, don't we? But Spurs are at a low ebb. But they could like go 2 down and then get one back. So I can see the logic in your bonus point play here. I'll go 2-1 to Brentford. And yeah, when is I don't know when that Carabao Cup game is, but yeah, it feels like that's D-Day for Ange Postecoglou, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. God, This one's hard to call, isn't it? So Palace had the disappointment against Brentford, and Man United surprised us. They're kind of the reverse teams in a couple of our ones that caught us out, aren't they? Um, I can always see a well-organised side like Palace going to Man United and winning, but then we had that weird win at Fulham. Are they going to be buoyed by that? They're going to be playing in, or is it? Are they off from the Conference League this week? Is it just are they playing off? I don't know. They might have a game or not, but I'll have a look in a minute.
I think they're definitely. I think they're playing Steaua Bucharest, or what the team that
Oh,
used to be
okay.
called Steaua Bucharest, away.
Oh, in which case, I'm going to go for a draw because I've confused myself in even kind of trying to rationalise this game. You've confused me even more with a trip to where's Bucharest, Romania, with a
Yeah,
trip to Romania as well. I'm
yeah.
going to go
Maybe have a
1-1, Mikey, and sit on the
okay.
fence.
I I'm going to go for Manchester United 1, Palace nil. You quickly look up if that Bucharest game is this week, just to make sure that we're right. But yeah, as we mentioned, Ruben Amorim has stopped the bleeding somewhat, hasn't he, with that win against Rangers last week, and then the narrow victory at Fulham. And yeah, winning when you're not playing great is a good thing sometimes, but I think he'd like a big performance in this one. Palace, they've been so boring in first half game in the first half of
Thursday
matches, and
night,
then
Bucharest. Yeah, you're correct.
okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, Palace, they keep starting games really slowly, and I don't know whether it's a ploy from Glasner just get in at half time and at 0-0, and then we'll go from there. But it didn't work against Brentford. They came out in the second half and were even worse. But SA, the ex Millwall man, came off the bench and made a positive contribution for them. He might get a start. But yeah, I'm going for a narrow Manchester United win here in the Croydon derby.
What was it? 1-0 you went, Mikey?
1-0.
Arsenal, Man City. Love this matchup, don't we?
We do, yeah. And I was supposed to be going to this one, but yeah, with illness and everything else I've got going on, I've decided to pull out of that one. Arsenal surely have to sign somebody before this game, Ben, at the attacking end. Is it
Cunha.
going to be hopefully Cunha? That would be nice for everyone involved, apart from maybe Wolves. But yeah, Mamouche, on the other hand, for Manchester City, he's proven that, yeah, if you get an attacker in, he can make a positive impact straight away. And that's what he did against Manchester City, against Chelsea last week. He didn't score, but he had one ruled out. And yeah, he was a real live wire in that game. And Phil Foden is just on fire again, isn't he? I feel like City can end Arsenal's title hopes with a win in this one. And I'm going to back them to do it, Ben. I'm going for a 2-1 Manchester City win, which, as long as Liverpool get the job done in their game the day before, I think they'll be almost there.
So what will that be? Let me just have a look at the table. Will that be like 53? So that'd be a 9-point lead. Yeah.
And
With
and it could go to 12 if they win the Merseyside derby. Not that that will be
other
easy.
game in hand as well. Crikey, yeah. I better back Arsenal then because we want a title race to talk about. And Man City are kind of back, but it does still look like they're somewhat wounded. And you know, maybe if Chelsea had been a bit more savvy in that game, I don't know if they'd had a bit more of a brutal manager, whether they would have been able to go and win that. Although I acknowledge Maresca's doing brilliantly for Chelsea, but you know what I mean, like a more tournament-y approach to it rather than the process-driven. Um, Man City normally score, don't they? So let's go for them to be leaky at the back. I'm going to go 3-1. Maybe Arsenal will score more than one set play because without Saka, it's tricky, and Jesus, I get it. But yeah, maybe for a little bit of playing against Mikey and a little bit of title race narrative, I'll go for a 3-1. Which leaves us with the Frank Lampard derby is Chelsea versus West Ham. West Ham keep nicking these like kind of unlikely results. They drew at Villa, but Villa have struggled a little bit after Champions League games, which I didn't mention in respect to their game this round. I'm quite confident that Chelsea are going to win this one, Mikey, which is probably famous last words. Oh, it's Graham Potter going back to
Yeah, Graham
Stamford
Potter
Bridge as well.
narrative. Yeah,
He'll be incredibly unpopular there, won't he?
yeah.
And I think he's going to lose. 2-0, a routine home win, Mikey.
Yeah, and when Potter went back to Brighton with Chelsea, it was an
Potter.
absolute horror show for him. And I'm backing this one to be a horror show for him again. I'm going for it to be even worse. I'm going Chelsea 4, West Ham 1. Chelsea
Wow.
showed us just what they're all about in that game against Manchester City. They can go toe to toe with anyone. They've got so many dangerous attackers. They've got pace. They can hit you on the counter, but they will waste chances and they
What do you
will
think
leak
about the
goals.
goalie as well?
Yeah, they will leak goals at the back. You wonder if Sanchez keeps his place against his old boss in this game. West Ham just missing that centre forward. A good comeback draw at Aston Villa. Jared Bowen is nearing a return, but I doubt we'll see much of him, if at all, in this one. I can't look beyond a comfortable Chelsea win.
There we go. That is your 10 for round 24. Get your own predictions in via the comments. Copy and paste from the description. Give yourself a point for a correct outcome, home, away, or draw. 3 points for a correct scoreline. And give yourself bonus points ahoy if your predictions got more than, 5 goals or more. Look at this from Mikey. He's gone for a 4-1 at Chelsea and a 3-2 at Brentford. I've gone for a 3-2 at Ipswich. What could possibly go wrong? Also, let us know in the comments which FA Cup fixtures. We're not doing all of them, but we will do 10 or 12. Let us know which FA Cup fixtures you would like us to cover in the predictions, and we will see you again next week.